We have a major update. According to reports, Josh Hart is questionable for tonight's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers as he's dealing with an ankle injury. Due to that, Deuce McBride could get the start. We're going to break down all of these latest reports and so much more today. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. And make sure you have notifications turned on so you don't miss a second of the new content. And now, let's get started. Josh Hart injures his ankle. Deuce McBride could start in his place. For Josh Hart, he was struggling on the offensive side of the ball in the preseason. And I'm not going to lie, I was worried about what we were going to get from him on that side of the ball come opening night. But he changed everybody's mindset when he was aggressive against the Celtics, and that only continued against the Indiana Pacers. So he was coming alive and showing everybody why he deserved to be part of that starting unit. But now, unfortunately, during the Indiana game, it looked like he injured his ankle, and now he's questionable going into tonight's game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Let's take a look at the injury report for the Knicks for tonight's game. Shout out to New York Basketball on the app X for giving us the following information. According to them, Josh Hart is listed as questionable for tonight's game against the Cavs with right ankle impingement, which essentially means a right ankle injury or a right ankle sprain. We don't know too much more about it now, but I'm sure if he misses tonight's game, we'll learn a lot more about it after that. Regarding Deuce McBride, as you can see here, even though he is on the injury report, his status is probable with that left knee hyperextension. He hyperextended his knee against the Indiana Pacers, and he had to go to the locker room during that game. But he came back out, and he was able to play the rest of the game. So I don't think it's anything too severe or serious, and it's likely he is going to be playing for the Knicks tonight. The only question is, will Josh Hart be joining him? If he doesn't, the only likely change the Knicks are going to make is moving Deuce McBride from the bench all the way to the starting unit, which is the right move to make if Josh Hart is missing. And then off the bench, potentially you go Kolek and Campaign. I'm not saying that's exactly what the Knicks are going to do, but essentially they could go that route with the players they have right now. We got to remember, New York still only has 12 players on traditional NBA contracts. They're waiting likely till November 4th before they make any deals, because if they do that, they're going to save money in the process. And Brock Aller, our capologist, always wants to make sure we're saving money in each and every way possible, whether it's $1 or a couple $100,000. Every single one counts. And that's why the Knicks are making sure they're not going to rush to make moves. They're going to make the right moves at the right time. But going back to Josh Hart, if he misses tonight's game with that right ankle injury, the Knicks are going to lose somebody in the starting lineup who's aggressive, who can go coast to coast, who can get rebounds, who can attack, who can defend extremely well. Even though Deuce McBride can shoot the ball extremely well and he can defend tenaciously, he doesn't do the playmaking that Josh Hart does, and he's not tall enough to give you the rebounding that Josh Hart gives you. So we're going to be losing that as part of the starting lineup. That means we have to rebound even more by committee, because we're not going to have the savior of Josh Hart being in the game out there trying to disrupt everything and get those boards. It's going to have to be a collective effort for everybody to try to grab loose balls, get those rebounds, and increase the Knicks' chances of second chance opportunities. That's how we beat Cleveland tonight. We got to remember, they're undefeated. Their defense is top notch. And if the Knicks are going to beat them, we're going to have to break them down inside by penetrating and creating and allowing our wings, people on the perimeter, to shoot open and convert on those threes. If we can do that, they're going to earn themselves another blowout victory against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And I'm not the only one who believes that Deuce McBride could enter the starting lineup if Josh Hart cannot go tonight. According to NBA insiders with CBS Sports, they believe the exact same thing. According to them, the severity of Josh Hart's injury remains unclear. But if he's sidelined, Miles McBride would be a candidate to enter the starting lineup. And it makes the most sense. Even though he's going to give you an undersized backcourt, he's going to give you the shooting. He's going to give you the defense. He is going to give you impact as being part of that starting lineup. And I believe a backcourt of Jalen Brunson and Miles McBride, you might have to fact check me on this, but I believe each and every time they've run that lineup out there in terms of a starting unit, they've won those games. So if we're undefeated with that lineup, you might as well run it out against the undefeated team we're going to be playing tonight against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I'm not too worried about the bench scoring because you have Campaign to an extent. You might have Tyler Kolek. You have a couple of other players on the bench that we do need to step up and give us scoring. Campaign, I'm looking at him more than anybody else because he's the experienced vet on the bench that if we look to him, we're going to need him to step up, to score, and do everything that Deuce McBride was doing off the bench that he's likely not going to be able to do if he joins the starting unit. I'm going to be watching the injury report because it's likely that the Knicks and Tom Thibodeau are not going to make an announcement about this until game time. That's just how Tom Thibodeau is. But once we learn more about it, I guarantee at that point, we'll also learn potentially who the Knicks are going to start. But all of these decisions are likely not going to be announced until closer to game time. So you're not going to know about this potentially in the afternoon or earlier than that. Tom Thibodeau likes to play with his cards to his chest. He doesn't like to let anybody know what's going on or what to expect. So because of that, we're not going to know either until everybody else knows. It's also worth mentioning that the odd makers have Deuce McBride as potentially the second most likely player this year to win Sixth Man of the Year, right under Malik Monk. That is huge honors for Deuce. He was never in the conversation before, but after all the moves the Knicks made this offseason, he is firmly in place to get a lot of minutes off the bench and potentially take that Sixth Man of the Year award. But Deuce starting makes the most sense. It helps the Knicks, in my opinion, and it's a lineup that we haven't lost with. Why not go to it if Josh Hart can't go? And I don't want to force anybody to play through an injury. We cannot experience injuries this early on. I am so upset that Josh Hart could potentially miss tonight's game due to an injury. We are only 3 games into the season, and we are talking about injuries to our starting lineup. I cannot see that any longer. Hopefully, Josh Hart doesn't play tonight if that ankle is bothering him. We need to make sure we're looking after health more than anything else. We have the depth on this team. Let's trust it. If we trust it, then let's let the players who are injured rest and recover. And another thing, Tom Thibodeau, even though I haven't said this openly in a lot of videos that I've done about the game against Indiana, I want to say it here. If we're up 30 points tonight in the fourth quarter against the Cleveland Cavaliers, please take our starters out. Please do not put them in the game. I understand you potentially want to work on chemistry. This group just got thrown together. So anytime on the court against other NBA level talent is a good opportunity to test things and experiment. Understand that. Fully get it. Please don't do it. Josh Hart currently is dealing with an ankle injury. He's questionable for tonight's game. We do not want to have our starters questionable each and every night. We have to make sure we watch their minutes and they're not playing heavy minutes when they don't need to. In a blowout, when we're up 30, they do not need to be on the court. God forbid any injury happened, and then we would be looking at that game and looking at Tom Thibodeau again and saying, why were the starters in there in the first place? We have to be better at managing minutes and making sure players are not just out there because we just want them out there to protect the lead because, quote unquote, no lead is safe. Up 30, I'm going to protect my team more than anything else. Take out the starters and utilize your bench. Hopefully, Tom Thibodeau understands that, and we see that moving forward. But if we continue to see the starters playing significant minutes when we're up big, that is never something I'm going to be able to get behind because that can increase the chances of our starters getting injured, and I'm never going to be okay with that. But what about you guys? What do you think about the following updates today from the injury report indicating that Josh Hart is questionable as he's dealing with an ankle injury? And what about Deuce McBride? Do you think he should start if Josh Hart can't go? Let me know in the comments section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.